Stream has started. No, let's see who accepts it. Twitch has accepted it. And Facebook has accepted it. And you don't YouTube doesn't like you, so.
Yeah, I don't like YouTube.
He tends to play Grateful Dead music and stuff on his show, and YouTube's always yelling at us for him doing that. Okay, so
the Stream Deck board is blacked out over here, or it's got like it's on but it doesn't have any buttons.
oh wait, maybe I screwed up over here. Let me see. I was using it in the other room. Oh, is it plugged in?
He didn't plug it into the computer.
Oh, thank you. There we go.
Okay.
Plug into the power supply.
Everything.
Okay. Everything you like is in there?
I'm just, before I get started, trying to figure out the desktop to...
Desktop is Vin 9.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then we get the timer rolling.
You put in the bottom.
I'll put it wherever you want me to put it.
Bottom right, please.
All right.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Okay, now let's see.
Where are the puppets?
Where is the timer? I do not see the timer.
I'm the puppets. The puppet is here.
Somebody said, where are the puppets?
Yeah, here.
Oh.
I'm the puppet. Pull my strings.
And why don't we see the timer? So what we got to do here is we got to look at the timer. Matte, and obviously that's way too big. You want it like there, or?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, and what's the other buttons you're going to use? Okay, it's over there on that one. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, cool.
I think this stream was hijacked. Who's Nick's World? Is this a Twitch person? That's not Mick.
It's somebody from, I think, North Carolina who's a big fan of Think Twice Radio.
Huh. I think his stream was hijacked. Oh, maybe because he hears you talking?
Maybe he thinks we only have one show on our stream. He's unaware that different people have different shows.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Okay, are you ready to start the show?
I am ready.
When it says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Thank you. Hello, Think Twice Radio. I'm Metachewy. Welcome to Metachewy Live. This is not Tony and the Ogre. This is the Tuesday show where usually I'm Metachewy. So every other week I stream by myself, which is this week, and then next week and every other week I'll be on with the Answer Man, my Uncle John himself, where we dive into deeper topics. But today's show is just going to be me talking for an hour, so I'm sorry if you were looking for puppets, but I joke that I am your puppet. If you'd like, if you'd like to pull my strings, I'm your puppet. So today's show, I'm going to talk about a couple different things. So I'm going to talk about Bitcoin mining. I'm going to do a deep dive into Bitcoin mining and try to explain and articulate how I believe that Bitcoin mining could be used as a tool for a renewable future. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about the City of Buffalo Open Data Portal. I'm going to be sharing some data portal and open data stuff on Twitter. So I wanted to preview that. And then maybe if I'm feeling ambitious, and maybe if the puppeteers puppeteer me, I will perform a folk song first, an open mic later on. But first, let's dive into Bitcoin mining. So I touched on this a little last week, but Bitcoin mining. So I think Bitcoin mining, there's a lot of confusion and just kind of misunderstanding. I think it's still something I don't really fully understand, but I've done some research and I want to articulate how I think Bitcoin mining could be used as a tool for a renewable future. So I think a lot of the times Bitcoin mining is portrayed in the mainstream media pretty simply, right? Usually the mainstream media goes like this: is Bitcoin mining uses a lot of power. Using a lot of power is bad. Therefore, Bitcoin mining is bad. And I think it's a very simple kind of explanation. I think the topic of Bitcoin mining is very complex and it deserves a deeper dive. So recently in Buffalo, in a suburb of Buffalo, North Tonawanda, there was a Bitcoin mining DigiHost is a company that has repurposed a fossil fuel factory in North Tonawanda for Bitcoin mining. And a lot of the residents nearby have complained that it's too noisy. It creates a lot of noise, and also kind of using the environmental angle to say that Bitcoin mining, is bad for the environment, which in this case, it definitely is, right? So I want to be clear that Bitcoin mining, for my personal opinion, is Bitcoin mining to, continue fossil fuels and continue the use of fossil fuels is bad. But I think, so the analogy I like to make is that Bitcoin is a tool, right? It's not good or bad. It's a tool. It's neutral. It's software. It's code. It's not good or bad. It's a tool. And then the analogy I like to make is that a hammer is a tool, right? So a hammer can be used for good or bad. A hammer is a tool that could be used to build a house, which is great, right? Making shelter for human beings is a great thing. But a hammer could also be used for bad things. It could be used to bludgeon someone's skull. It could be used to break a window, to break into a building. So a hammer can also be bad. But the tool itself is just a hammer. I don't think people would argue that a hammer is good or bad. It's a tool. It's who's using the tool that provides that with context. And I think similar to the energy discussion, another analogy I'd like to make is that with exercise, right? Exercise uses a lot of energy, but why does anyone exercise when sitting on the couch uses no energy at all? So the reason people exercise, right, is because they've made a calculation in their head that expending the energy to exercise is good, because in the long run, it will have good long-term effects versus sitting on a couch and doing nothing. I think it's similar with Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining uses a lot of energy, but I think the question, and what I'd like to try to get people to reframe the question is how much energy does Bitcoin use? The real question I think we need to be asking is the energy that Bitcoin mining uses worth it? So I'm going to kind of paint a utopian picture, because right, there are bad things. There are fossil fuel plants being used to essentially extend their useful life to mine Bitcoin. And I think that's bad, and that's not the future that I'd like to see Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining take. But there is an alternative, and Bitcoin's being used in some other ways to promote renewable energy. So I'm going to kind of paint the utopian vision of Bitcoin. And obviously, I think the more information that could go out, the more maybe we could push our politicians and push people in charge to, use Bitcoin as a positive tool, right? We want Bitcoin to build a house. We don't want Bitcoin to be used like a hammer to bludgeon someone's skull. So I think the first way that first we need to understand energy, right? So energy is super complex. It's not as simple as a lot of energy, little energy, a lot of energy bad, little energy good. Energy is a very diverse field, right? So I think one of the things to understand too is just how is energy created? So for society, right, we are a high-tech society that needs to use lots of power, right? We need power to run our computers, to turn the lights on, to run power in our homes, and our whole society is built around the ability to generate power. So another thing is our demand fluctuates throughout the day, right? So when you're sleeping, you're not using any power because all the lights are off. Then you turn on, you turn on your coffee maker, you turn on the lights, your power goes up, and then throughout the day, it's you turn on the microwave. Okay, you're using more power. So essentially, the demand for power is fluctuating throughout the day. And when we're creating power in society, you can't create power to meet the demand at any certain time. It's too complex. It's not really possible to know how much power people are using and then provide them with the perfect amount of power. So essentially, you have to plan for like the worst case or like the maxed out situation when we're designing our power grids and our power systems. So essentially, you need to make sure that your power system could handle the maximum capacity load. So we're thinking, middle of July, whenever your house is running an air conditioning unit 24/7 at full blast. We're thinking in the middle of winter when people have, their heating units and their furnaces on full blast to keep themselves warm. So you need to create the power grid needs to be built for the maximum situation. And then, so our society and our power grid is always really producing the maximum level that we need. But again, demand for electricity is always fluctuating. So in spring, when it's not that hot out, people don't have their ACs on, their windows are open, the lights are off. So essentially, you have a system where the supply of energy is maxed out. It's always at the top, right? We're generating the max amount of electricity all the time to meet the demand so that if we do reach that, we have enough power. And then the demand for power is fluctuating. It's different times of day, different seasons. Essentially, this creates a situation, too, where we're creating more power than we can possibly use most of the time. And the problem around energy that our society and our civilization faces now is we are not efficient at storing energy, right? We've made some innovations in lithium batteries. We've made, innovations of how to, transport energy from one spot to another, but we still are very inefficient at creating energy and storing it for later. So this isn't like chipmunks that we can, go harvest nuts, put them away, and then for a cold, rainy day, pull them out later. Energy it really is, and it's a joke, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we're constantly creating power. I think a good example too is think of Niagara Falls, right? Over hydropower, that the water's always falling over the falls. The generators are always spinning at maximum capacity, generating power. But again, the demand is not always. Sometimes it is at the peak, but sometimes it's not. But essentially, the way our energy infrastructure is set up now is that we have lots of stranded or wasted energy. So we're creating a lot of energy that isn't actually used. So again, measuring energy as, a single value is not really efficient because who cares if Bitcoin uses energy that was going to be wasted anyway? You can't really use that in a calculation when it was just going to be wasted. So yeah, essentially it's important to understand kind of how our energy infrastructure works and understand that, we have lots of wasted energy, which brings me to Bitcoin mining. So, and the problem is, if we are to ever get to a renewable energy future, right? So right now we are primarily on fossil fuels. In order for us to become, find new renewable sources of energy, they need to be profitable. And unfortunately, right now, a lot of renewable energy products just aren't economically viable and aren't profitable, right? Because you have situations where, maybe in the middle of China in some, far off place, there's a waterfall that you could build a hydro plant in, but it would be too expensive to take that power, send it off, and get it back. And there's lots of waste energy, so it's not economically viable. And that's where Bitcoin mining comes in. So Bitcoin miners, I think it's important to understand the process of Bitcoin miners. So the Bitcoin system or the Bitcoin network, I like to refer to as Bitcoin is just a giant computer game, right? You have all these computers competing to solve essentially math puzzles. And so these Bitcoin miners, and they use ASIC miners, which are very strong, powerful. It's like a gaming computer. So these are really high-level computers that do use lots of power. That's kind of the process that is Bitcoin mining. You have all these computers that are being plugged in and that are using lots of power. The reason that Bitcoin mining, first of all, it's different in a couple different ways. So I like to use the analogy of Bitcoin miners can be turned on and turned off with no consequences. So what do I mean by that? So think of your refrigerator, right? Your refrigerator uses a lot of power and, you store your food in it, right? So you have your meats, you have your vegetables, you have your fruits, you have, the food that you eat that is being refrigerated using power. Now, if you were to turn your refrigerator off for a minute, you might be okay. But if you leave the fridge off for a day, 2 days, 3 days, there's going to be consequences, right? Your meat might spoil, or it will spoil, right? Your food will go bad. Your apples will start to rot. Everything in your fridge will needs that power to maintain. So refrigerators and lots of appliances too are the same way of there's consequences. If you turn it off, something bad will happen. Whereas the Bitcoin network, since it's so decentralized and since there are computers literally in every nook and cranny of the world playing the computer game or the Bitcoin game, if you unplug one unit or even a factory full of units, it doesn't matter because the Bitcoin network will adjust and all the computers will continue to play the game elsewhere. So Bitcoin miners are unique is that you can turn them on and off with no consequences individually. So Bitcoin miners, you can turn them off and the Bitcoin game keeps on going. You just aren't a participant in it. So the reason that Bitcoin mining could be used to create it essentially is this perfect kind of energy source too, right? So that Bitcoin miners are transportable. It doesn't matter if you're mining Bitcoin in the middle of a city or out in some remote desert. As long as there's a power source, you can plug in right at the source and use the power. Whereas a refrigerator, it's not too helpful to have a refrigerator off in some faraway place, have your food, because you need your refrigerator right where you live, right? Mostly in a city, right? So you need your power source in a city. So it needs to be, there's a geographic element to the power of you're generating or using the power in one spot, but the power is being generated in another spot. And there's this factor of how do I get the power from one place to another? Whereas the Bitcoin miners, they're agnostic to where they're located. They just care about power. So Bitcoin miners can be transported and set up in places and then used, if there's renewable energy that's being wasted, they can be plugged in and use it right there. I think the other thing about Bitcoin mining is Bitcoin miners, they really care about one thing, which is the cost of power. So they're constantly searching for the lowest source or cost of power. So unfortunately, this leads to a lot of legacy fossil fuel systems in fossil fuel factories, which have reached the end of their useful life. And Bitcoin miners, if they do offer cheap electricity, unfortunately, the Bitcoin miners, again, Bitcoin's a tool. So Bitcoin doesn't care if fossil fuels are bad or fossil fuels are good. They just know it's a power source you can plug in. So again, it's the miners. It's not the actual network that cares there. So yeah, and I think Bitcoin is also kind of leading this computer kind of revolution of it's forcing the computer industry and forcing miners to get more efficient and constantly it's essentially creating demand for cheaper and cheaper energy, which I think in the long run will hopefully lead to, a renewable future. So to summarize there, the Bitcoin miners, why the utopian vision, right? So there's a reality, which I think is somewhere in between where Bitcoin miners are being used to keep fossil fuels going. And then Bitcoin miners are also being used to keep renewable energy sources, making them viable. So the utopian future that I like to paint, and I think that all humans on Earth want to root for, is that Bitcoin gets used and Bitcoin mining gets used as a tool to hopefully accelerate renewable energy. So I would love Bitcoin mining to be seen by policymakers, by local residents as a way to make renewable energy projects economically viable. So again, Bitcoin miners, they are the perfect kind of user of this stranded energy, right? So we have, again, the waterfall analogy of water always going on the turbine, always generating power. Bitcoin can be used as a tool, whereas, hey, I know that waterfall project or that hydro project isn't economically sustainable because you have all this wasted energy. But if you bring Bitcoin miners in, they can use the energy that's just being wasted, that's being generated and not used at all and going away. We can bring in the Bitcoin miners. They can use the energy that's wasted, that's literally generating no money for you. And we can generate some value to help, get your profit up to make that project sustainable and make it viable. And I think that's the tool. And again, I think Bitcoin too, you see lots of analogies in the mainstream media of, Bitcoin uses a lot of power. Bitcoin uses more power than Finland. It uses more power than, name some other country or some other thing. But Bitcoin it's bigger than a nation state, right? So you can't really compare apples to oranges. So comparing Bitcoin to a nation state like a Finland isn't really a good comparison because Bitcoin is actually bigger than a country, right? So Bitcoin is a reserve currency for the internet. So it is an open source monetary system that is open to all humans on Earth if they have an internet connection. That's a massive thing. So I think especially when comparing power usage to. Bitcoin needs to be right. We want to compare apples to apples. So Bitcoin is kind of, you can think of it as a digital gold. So I think comparing the energy usage of Bitcoin mining to something like gold mining, or even something like the US dollar system, is a more apples to apples comparison. So Bitcoin mining, relatively, when you look at it against gold mining and the US monetary system or US dollar system, it actually uses less energy. So you think of all the, the rigs that need to be used to dig up gold out of the earth and extract it uses a tremendous amount of energy as well. And then the U.S. monetary system, what gives the U.S. dollar its value, right? It's the military that's spread out throughout the world that enforces the protocol. And it's essentially, that's all what Bitcoin is. These miners are literally just protecting the protocol so that Bitcoin has its value. The same way that the U.S. military system or all the, the rigs that are digging gold up out of the ground and extracting gold do. So essentially, we need to use energy some way to have a money. And Bitcoin is actually, when you look at it that way, is actually super efficient because it's just software. It's just numbers. There's no physical headquarters that are employed with employees that drive their gas guzzlers to work. There's no cubicles of bankers that flip on their switches. It's really just information. So so I think even the analogy that the mainstream media likes to use of, Bitcoin, look at this big number. It's more nuanced than that because that number may be big, but if that number and if that energy it's being used is just being wasted anyway, the fact that Bitcoin is using that energy is actually good. We're putting wasted, stranded energy to use and could make projects economically viable. So that's kind of a little rambling rant about Bitcoin mining. And again, I just want to paint a utopian future because I think the mainstream media likes to paint, Bitcoin mining is, accelerating global warming, which it definitely could, right? Bitcoin mining could be used, especially if miners use fossil fuels and just start. I think I've even seen some places in Texas that are just using natural gas springs to mine Bitcoin. So Bitcoin could be used to accelerate global warming and could be used to, heat our planet, which I don't want to see. And I don't think anybody wants to see. But again, it's a tool. It's back to the analogy of a hammer. A hammer's not good or bad. It's a tool. It could be used to build a house. It could be used to bludgeon someone's skull. And Bitcoin's the same thing. It's a tool. It could be used to keep fossil fuel plants going, or it could be used to make renewable energy projects financially viable. So it's just up to the miners. So it's not just miners. And I think miners are so focused on cheap electricity, making money, mining Bitcoin, that I think it's up to, to citizens. It's up to citizens, up to politicians, political leaders. It's up to regulators, and it's up to kind of people to kind of put constraints and to say no to fossil fuel factories for Bitcoin mining and then try to use it as a tool for good. So hopefully this video can contribute a little bit to raising awareness of the potential positive effects that Bitcoin mining may have on Mother Earth. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'd be glad to try to maybe articulate that better or do some more research. Or if I'm wrong somewhere, let me know so I can do some research and correct myself. But yeah, I just want to kind of paint a utopian picture. So hopefully we can, reach that utopia of, a renewable future. So let's move on. Let's do another Bitcoin segment here. So I want to dive into the stock to flow model. So I think the stock to flow model, this is a model for valuing Bitcoin. And I think it's good. I think people always say, is it a good time to buy Bitcoin? Is it not? And I think that's kind of hard to say. I think one tool or one mental model that I think has been helpful for me and I think could be helpful to kind of explain the Bitcoin price is the stock to flow model. So this graph, I think this was developed by, his name's escaping me now, but yeah, if you search stock to flow model, it's a very popular model of valuing Bitcoin. Essentially what it does, stock and flow, right? So stock, you can think of that as the supply of Bitcoin. And again, the stock or the supply of Bitcoin is 21 million. That's Satoshi Nakamoto put that in the source code that there will be 21 million coins. That's all there will ever be. And then he set up an algorithm. Satoshi set up an algorithm where okay, how do you distribute those 21 million coins? Do you distribute it all at once on day one? Do you distribute it in equal intervals? What Satoshi came up with was kind of the halving algorithm, right? So I did a deeper dive on the halvening, and you can watch that video. I'll link to it. But in short, the halvening, the way he set it up is that essentially every block, right? So you can think of a block as just a list of, or just essentially like a Google sheet of transactions in the sky. So this person A is sending Bitcoin to person B. And I think as I record this now, Block Cipher is a good site I like to use for just for monitoring. But yeah, this Bitcoin Explorer. So right now, as I record this, we are on block 856,669. So essentially, Satoshi just set up the halving algorithm to go so that every 210,000 blocks, the halving reward be cut in half. So in the beginning, Satoshi said every block, so block 0, block 1, the reward, or all the computers will play a game. Whoever wins that game, there will be a puzzle, a mathematic puzzle. The first computer to solve that puzzle will get the reward, will get the 50 Bitcoins. So for the first 210,000, you can think of them hands of this game, or the first 210,000 blocks, the reward that the computer network or the winning computer get was 50. And then after 210,000 blocks, that reward got cut in half to 25, or the halvening. And then another 210,000 blocks went out, and then that reward was halved again to 12.5, and so on and so on. So as I record this now, I think the Bitcoin reward is 3.5. But yeah, so essentially you can think of the supply of Bitcoin is kind of getting halved, right? Exponentially. This game will continue till I think it's like 2140, that the 21 millionth Bitcoin will be mined, and then it will just be no more rewards at that point. The network will just play to collect fees to send them to. But this supply curve it affects the price, right? So I think that's where stock to flow is good. So let me try to explain this. There we go. Let's see if I can get that. I'll get the pip out of the way. But essentially, grunt. Okay, the stock to flow. I'm trying to get the colors. Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go. But essentially, grunt. So essentially this grunt. Okay. It's extending. But this color signifies, yeah, so stock to flow. So essentially what you have here is a color coding. So it's days until the halvening. So 0 is when the halvening is in it. So when the reward gets cut in half. And then what you have here is essentially these dotted lines are the halvening events. And then kind of the price is this colored line. And the color is just based on days from the halvening. So right as we approach the halvening, it's purple. Then the halvening occurs, it turns red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, halvening, red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Essentially the pattern that we've seen so far, right, and who knows if this will play out, is that this halving event, it leads to a supply shock. And this supply shock leads to an escalation of the price, which leads to these rapid, upticks in price. And then essentially the market kind of corrects, it comes down. But the way it's happened is once the price is shot up, it does come down, but it's always been, or usually settles higher than the previous cycle. So kind of, if you can think of Bitcoin as it's slowly kind of going up in price in steps. So for example, in the first cycle, so in 2010, the price of Bitcoin was essentially under $1, and then it shot up to $18, and then came back down to $3, and then kind of trended around to the next halvening where it was 13. Then it shot up to 143, went down, shot up again. So it's kind of going up in steps. In this cycle too, in 2016, it was $595, and then the halvening occurred, and then it takes right, it takes the market a while to figure out. It's not like the halving occurs and the next day everyone's like, oh, the Bitcoin are lesser now. It's more like it takes time for that, that to affect the market. And which leads me to right kind of where we are now in stock to flow. As I record this is August 2024. And the halving occurred back in, was it April? Late April. So we're kind of in this trending pattern where we are past the halving event. And based on stock to flow, this model predicts that, we will see another uptick in price and that the market fully hasn't understood yet that there's less Bitcoins right now. So there's literally 3.5 Bitcoins being produced every 10 minutes instead of the just over 6 Bitcoins. So I think stock to flow model is just useful to help understand the price. Because I think people follow the price. Bitcoin go up, Bitcoin go down. But I think it's important to zoom out. I think the stock to flow helps kind of articulate that. And this isn't rocket science, so it's not exact, but I think it's good. Clearly, there's some sort of correlation between the halving events and the uptick in the price of Bitcoin. So, and again, this halving reward it's going to be 1.5. Then it's going to be under a Bitcoin. Then essentially you'll have all the miners in the world competing for a very scarce amount of Satoshis. So I think if people say, stock to flow model, I think is helpful. If you just search stock to flow, you can find it online. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or thoughts. I'd be glad to dive deeper into this later. And let me know. Okay, let's pivot now. So I did some kind of crypto Web3 stuff. Let's go to Web 2. So I'm going to record a segment here, kind of about Web 2, but I'm going to, slice this up and maybe put on Twitter. I've changed my handle now to Open Data Matt. So I was fired as the city's Open Data and Analytics project coordinator, and it's traumatic to be fired from a job, especially when you think that you didn't deserve to lose your job, but it is what it is. I've recorded videos on that too of my termination, how the city's violating civil service law, whole bunch of things that you can find on YouTube. I can link in this video. But I want to try to pivot to being right. I care about data and I care about using data. So I'm going to try to start putting out some more content around Open Data Buffalo. And I'm working on a site I'm developing right now to kind of use open data because we're moving towards a budgetary cliff, right? We are at the end of this year. The city's been running on American Rescue Plan dollars, and that money runs out. So everyone's playing a game of musical chairs. They're all trying to head for the exits, and really no one uses data. But I think the Open Data Portal is a resource that could be used and can maybe help generate some information. So I want to do kind of just a short tour on the Open Data Portal. So this is the city's website, the Open Data Buffalo .gov website. So I want to point your attention. You can find city data, all types of stuff on here. I think the one I want to point people towards is this Open Book Buffalo. So if you click on the Open Book Buffalo, this is just bringing up information and data about the city's finances. So budget. So there's a couple of different data sets. There's the checkbook, which is like the expenditure. So you can see really granular information about specific expenses. And then there's also this payroll. So all the city's payroll information lives right in this data set. And then the operating budget and revenue budget. So there's actually data about the city's budget. So what they budgeted expense-wise and also what they budgeted on revenue. And this is cool because the city of Buffalo's, they publish their budget, but they publish it as a PDF, right? So they have, if you search for a PDF, you can find this 2024-25 adopted budget, which has, PDFs. So, right, there's PDFs about the appropriation or expenses by department. And this is really painful on the eyes, right? This is just straight up spreadsheet, granular information, right? Common clerk, budget amount, actual amount. and really hurt. So it has costs by department. It has costs by bucket. So kind of like personal services, fringe benefits, right? Utilities. But this is not human readable. It's not even machine readable. It's just a PDF with all these numbers that is kind of painful. But it's important, right? This is the city's budget. This is the document that guides the city, right? It guides quality of life. And I think one thing I'd love to see more people use too, and I'm playing around too with myself of, right, how can we monitor this budget and how can we learn and know about this budget as it's happening, right? This PDF, they adopt the budget in May, June, and then at the beginning of the city's fiscal year in July 1st, the new fiscal year and this new budget comes into effect, but it's just the PDF. So how do we monitor in real time this budget to see, is the city overspending? Is it underspending? Is it meeting its target? What's the deal? And I think I'm playing around with and starting to develop and use this data, right? So you can click on here and you can explore these. So if you click these links, it takes you to like, let's go to operating, for example. It takes you to the story where it makes kind of graphs, right? And it's okay. Right, for the average Joe or average Jane user, it's fine. But I really want to point to, I'm speaking more to like the devs and the data geeks of here. We can actually find the actual data which lives in these data sets. So if you go to these, again, these links and click on these open data sets. So for example, this one takes you to the open budget expense filtered. And this is, again, kind of confusing again too. So you can see the data. You can go in here to actions, right? So you can you can click this actions button and, you can query the data, visualize it, whatever. One thing that I've been playing around with and I'd like to see people use is this API. So again, if we go back to this about page, if we go to actions, so if we go to, I'm off screen. Let me see if I can reconfigure this. Okay, so if we go to this actions and then we click on API, it will bring up this API where we can actually copy this endpoint. So copy it to your clipboard. And then if you just open up another web browser, you can actually just paste that JSON right in the browser and hit enter. And it's going to pull up this really ugly to the human eye JSON file, right? So just very complex data in JSON format, which that's not why we're kind of using it. So the other thing I wanted to kind of show was there's actually development around Socrata Open Query language. So SOQL they call it. Socrata Developer Documentation. So if you click on the Socrata developers, the thing you're going to be interested here is this API docs. So click on API docs. And there's actually, to get you started, SOQL functions and keyword listings, and then API docs, SOQL queries. And this is information about different type of parameters. So like select, where, order, group, having, limit. So I kind of want to demonstrate how you could use these. And again, it's going to take some practice, but so again, we have the API in a URL. So actually what I can do here is I can write a SOQL statement. So I start that with a question mark, and then we'll use a where statement. So $where equals, and let's say, again, we'll do fiscal year equals 2025, and then enter. And what it actually does is actually filters the information where this is now data just about fiscal year 2025. So again, we're using a where statement, and what we do is we go to this column and we found fiscal year. So you can actually funnel or filter all this data just based on these column names. So the one that I did was just your fiscal year, which it's right. There's 41 columns. There's a lot of columns, and some of them are not that excited. But yeah, this fiscal year number. So you just type fiscal year 2025, and then so you can actually use these where statements. So again, I can do fiscal year 2025. So that's a where, and entity equals parentheses city, and now you're just right. And so I kind of just know these just based on using it, but you can actually filter this data and return real-time information. So right now we're just pulling data that is from the city's budget data set where the fiscal year is 2020-25 and the entity city, because there's some other entities in this data set like the sewer authority and bureau, which if you're interested in that type of data, you could use that. So, and also we can do, and where the fund group equals general fund, all caps, and enter. And again, this is now returning data where the fiscal year is 2025, the entity is the city, and the fund group is the general fund. So right now we're filtering the data, but we can also use what's a query select statement. So we can actually go in here and we can do, so we append an and, $select equals, and let's do segment 2, which I think is right. So now it returns, essentially segment 2 is the way that the city groups like the departments. So right now, using the where and the select, now we're returning, right, this isn't very helpful, but what we can do here is we can use a sum. So we can do sum, parentheses, original budget, and it's invalid. So it's invalid because we're selecting the segment 2 and then the sum. But the problem is, that it's returning all these. You can't return a sum for all these individuals. I mean, if you just did segment 2 in original budget, that would return individual for these lines. But we're trying to summarize this information. So, so what you need to do is if you wanted to use like the sum, you need to use like a group function. So let's kind of type in sum of the original budget, right? And that's going to be a SOQL error. But then if we just use a group function, so original budget, let's append and $group equals, as long as we group it on something we've selected, so the segment 2. So if I group it on equals segment 2, hit enter. Now it's going to return actual summarized information about each of these departments. And then, so it's just a way that we can actually in real time, like select really specific information. So if you're a database user and you've used SQL, which is SQL, something query language, escaping me. But yeah, it's very similar. Using select where statements, and there's really more even complex stuff. I mean, some of the Socratic documentation, which I encourage people to explore, this Socratic developers, there's all sorts of really advanced things you can do, like even this API docs, some of these SOQL queries. There's somewhere you can actually do, let's see, data transform functions. I mean, there's just all sorts of really specific things you can do. I mean, you can extract dates, days of week. So really there's just so much potential in this. And there's even some geographic where you can pick like specific points, so lat long points, and then there's things where you can draw a circle and select. I mean, if you're using a geographic data set like crime data, so there's just lots of potential that the open data portal could be used for. I think it's increasing general awareness of it, and also it does take some practice and a little technical expertise. And but I just love to see it, and it's something I'm going to be playing around with more. Is especially So again, back to this API that I did. So let's say we select the segment 2 code. That's a problem. But yeah, I just think that's a good example of it's, very brief, but sorry, the pressure got to me there where the query rang out. But yeah, just lots of potential to actually be able to query real-time information. So example, we can return this. This is sum of original budget, and say we also want to select the sum of the actual. The parenthesis. And that's the thing with, coding and also computer. This parenthesis was going the wrong direction, so it's you again, and then it works. And then again, you see this where it's actually returning each of the departments, the sum of the original budget, and then the sum of how much they've actually spent. So again, we could use this data to actually in real time track what each department is spending. So just a tool, and I know that it's really technical, so I'm speaking to a very niche audience, but if there is one other person out there that likes writing SQL queries to the Open Data Portal, send me a DM on Twitter because I'm interested in speaking with you and figuring out how we can actually use this. I would love to see people coming to the council, right? It's very clear. And yeah, I've been using, right? It's very clear to me that City Hall in Buffalo is closed source, right? So I'm very interested in building an open source Buffalo. How do we actually open up City Hall? Could we use the Open Data Portal, amongst other things, to actually have people more knowledgeable than the council members, right? So even the council members, I don't know how much data or if they're using data, right? But it's closed source. We don't know. There's no real public input on the processes. But I think the Open Data Portal, I just think it's an interesting tool that's out there that's really lightly used. And as my former supervisor and the chief innovation officer told me, the open data marketing campaign is over. The PR campaign is over. So I'm very interested in maybe how do we use this data to actually, how do you get the actual city using their own data? Because that's something I know from working in City Hall is that they don't use really any data. So yeah, that's a little overview of the Open Data Portal API. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, because I think it would be really cool to collaborate, and I'll be sharing in future videos some actual tools because I'm very interested in actually using this data to not just do machine readable stuff, but actually like visualize it and make it so that layman or a non-technical person can look at that data and understand it and find it useful. So let me know if you use open data or how you'd like to see it, because I'm definitely interested in helping explain it to people and helping use it and helping data be used to help our city not go off a financial cliff, what it's about to go down to. Let's see now. Let's pivot to something a little lighter. I'm gonna do some folk music. I'm feeling folky. Let's see how I can do this. This is Vin 1. Let me pull out my guitar, right? So I've been listening a lot to Woody Guthrie, Pete Seeger, but they've inspired me. I mean, as some of you may or may not know, I was playing around with live coding for a while, which is essentially making music with computer code. And the more I really think about it, the more it's apparent to me that the city really don't need more computer music. What we need is folk music, like real authentic, human-made music, made by humans for humans. So I'm going to try to do, I think I'm going to add a segment too where I do open mics, because it's like Metachewy open mic. Let's see, I got to play around here with my, even the camera angle. There's this angle. What's Vin 2? I like that view. Let me reconfigure myself because I'm going to perform here a bit, but I want to make sure that, this might be annoying to the live streamers, but Might be good for the actual post-production. So I want to get a better angle. Let's see if I can move here. How long does this give me? So yeah, so Pete Seeger, he's just like, he was like punk rock before there was punk rock. But yeah, he's got some really cool, just a lot of songs that I hear about his that I think, yeah, like What Side Are You On? Which I can sing that kind of Tracy Healy. Like this. What side are you on, Tracy? Which side are you on? Because he does like a union song. For those that don't know, my union president, Tracy Healy, she essentially, I call her double hat Healy because she wears two hats. She's on one hat, she works in the human resources department, and then in the civil service department, and then on the other hand, she's the union president. So she kind of uses her position to get insider information. I think she instigated my firing. So let me tune my instrument here. A, D. Let's see if I could. Sorry, I have some technical difficulties here while I Which side are you on, Trey? Which side are you on, Tracy? Which side are you on? Which side are... Let me just fiddle here. It's hard to go from speaking to playing here. Cause we making our radio's wage. We make home a radio's pay. In the internet age, we take home our radio's wage. We take home our radio's wage. We making our radio's wage in the internet age. My bootstraps break. We making. We making our radio's wage. We take all my radio's wage in the internet age. We take home our radio's pay. We making our radio's wage. We take home our radio's pay in the internet age. My bootstraps break. We making our radio's wage. We take home our radio's pay. Inflation takes at a 2% grade. We making our radio's wage. We take home our radio's wage in the internet age. We take home our radio's wage. We take home our radio's wage. We take home our radio's pay. Inflation takes from my radio's wage. We take home my radio's wage. We take home my radio's pay in the internet age. And we making our radio's wage. We take home our radio's wage. We take home our radio's pay. Inflation takes from my radio's wage. So, yeah, I'm just sketching songs here. These are songs that have been stuck in my head that are far from the finished piece, but I just want to start. It's time for me to start singing on the internet because that's kind of where I am at. Being able to perform songs, I think, is where I am. So let me just try to find what the muse. And I think there's this talk of musicians and artists talk about the muse, but something I'm kind of getting more in tune of. I don't know where the songs come from me. Let's see. Radio's away. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union. I'ma sing about my union till the day I die. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union and how Tracy Healy's an underboss of Byron Brown. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union. I'ma sing about my union till the day I die. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union. I'ma sing about my union till the day I die. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union. Oh, you can't scare me. I'ma sing about my union and how Tracy Healy's an underboss of Byron. brown. All you sashes bound to lose. All you sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes bound to lose. You bound to lose. You sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes, you bound to lose. All you sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes bound to lose. You bound to lose. You bound to lose. You sashes bound to lose. Captain Kirk is innovation now. Captain Kirk is innovation now. Take a bite of a panini, watch him scurry like a coward. Oh, all you sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes, you bound to lose. All you sashes bound to lose. Oh, all you sashes, you bound to lose. All you sashes bound to lose. Oh, you can't scare me, I'ma sing about my union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'ma sing about my union. They stole my wages, they instigated my termination from City Hall. Oh, you can't scare me, I'ma sing about my union. Oh, you can't scare me, I'ma sing about my truth. Oh, they stole my wages, they instigated, 'cause Tracy Healy's underboss of Byron Brown. Oh, double hat, Healy is an underboss of Brown. Tracy Healy's working underground. Oh, Tracy Healy, she terminated me, and Tracy's stealing wages from more than me. Oh, Tracy Healy's an underboss of Brown. Tracy Healy, she's a spy, an eye in the sky, president of the union, and she plays both sides. She's a spy, the mayor's eye in the sky. Tracy Healy should be doing time. She's a spy, the mayor's eye in the sky, president of the union, and she plays both sides. Double hat Healy, she should be doing time, and I won't stop singing till Tracy's fired. Oh, double hat Healy's an underboss of Byron Brown. Double hat Healy's working underground. She's a spy, the mayor's eye in the sky, president of the union, she plays both sides. She's a spy, mayor's eye in the sky. Double hat Healy should be doing time. Thank you. That was therapeutic. See, Steven Zip, that was my therapy. And Nicole Krug. My mental health is much better now. Thank you. Till next time, when we'll perform with Uncle John's band.